I would love to see the Professor Dr. Tim Noakes very much, because 3 years ago my journey started with low carb, high fat. I'm a sports nutritionist in Turkey, and when I see the Real Meal Revolution book, and I was amazed, and everything changed.
I'm a physician that's currently working in Dubai. I love the high fat, low carb diet. I've used it probably for 10 years in practice, and I'm hoping to collaborate with Tim and have him as part of our scientific advisory board.
It's been really nice seeing the growth of the Noakes Foundation and seeing doctors who are speaking about it more freely.
Just to get the confirmation that to continue to promote low carb living as I've been doing for the past few years in my practice.
Quite a lot of chronic health disease in the practice, and that's where I start working, was from in nutrition and diet. With the experience that I've had with my patients, it's positive.
And I felt I wanted to learn more and become more confident in the facts and the information about low carb, so that I could share it with my clients and with my patients.
I see in my practice is people really conforming to going on a diet and doing it the right way. And just the factors that undermine them to do that, to just see what the things are that prevent people from going all out for it.
Prof Noakes' introduction talk, it was amazing. I think he is just awesome, has a wealth of knowledge, and every slide, every sentence was just something you wanted to gulp up. I was too scared to blink.
Listening to Professor Noakes talk on day one, it was just inspirational and gave the room so much energy.
It's a very auspicious day because 2 days ago a publication came out to prove that we are right. And it was from Verta Health in California, and they compared the outcomes to usual care, and the group with usual care just got worse. The major outcome was that 93% of patients could either stop taking insulin or reduce their insulin.
I was becoming quite concerned about the number of diabetes patients I saw, but in fact in the Western Cape they're now saying that diabetes is the #1 killer, which is really staggering. Literally see this increase in mortality around sort of 30-35 when you're combining TB, HIV and diabetes.
What shocked me was that there were more people under the age of 65 dying than over the age of 65.
This is the number of new cases coming into the public health sector every month. Imagine that. I mean, it was up to 10, it's now hitting nearly 18,000 patients. Economically, this is going to cripple us.
The families that we see often have diabetes through the generations, so they've become desensitized to it.
I should begin by paying tribute to my father. And sorry, I always get emotional. This should really be the R.A. Noakes Foundation. That's my father. And I graduated with MD, that was 1981. And he'd just been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. And 10 years later, he was dead. And there I was watching him die and being part to the usual care that killed him. Now the point is that he was 68 and I'm 68, and I've been diagnosed type 2 diabetes for 7 years. And he was dead 10 years after the diagnosis. So I'm 7 years into the diagnosis. So what's my future? Am I going to be dead in 3 years' time? So that's what drives me.
I do have a bias, an agenda if you like, and my agenda is truth, scientific truth, like one of my heroes, Professor Noakes.
Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. Hippocrates said that in the original Hippocratic Oath. Just to highlight how very important food was and always will be.
And then along comes this disaster, the 1977 dietary guidelines. And it took me a long time to understand where humans are on this chain and why diabetes is so prevalent. And it's all on this slide.
In South Africa, 19 million obese or overweight patients, almost 50% now in 2016.
You can see for millions of years, we ate a low carbohydrate diet and then something changed. And that's how quick the change in carbohydrate consumption has been.
Professor Noakes is not really a maverick. He's just a scientist searching for the truth. And he's done what any good scientist does when faced with compelling evidence that flatly contradicts a deeply held belief.
Mike van der Nest, our advocate, essentially summarized what the trial was all about. It was a persecution. How a simple tweet could inspire ADSA, who led the charge, and the HPCSA to take all of its resources, 12 million rand of the doctor's money, and to point that at one person's direction. It raises a number of questions, one of which is what's at stake, but that's not a question to be answered.
You know, when I was doing my course, I was gobsmacked at the idea that you have to treat diabetes patients with high carbs and low fat. And yet they could tell us very categorically that carbohydrates increase your glucose levels. It's not about trying to control the carbohydrates, it's about trying to match the medicine to the carbohydrates. That's the carbohydrate counting, that's the current philosophy. And that's what we're actually up against.
Diabetes, it's the new norm. So we're surrounded by fat diabetic people. When you're measuring yourself against other people and everybody is fat, you don't seem so fat.
Whatever we've got our mums doing, we have the children following. And this is where I'm passionate. So in my practice, I tend to work a lot with teenagers, and I see two extremes, from quite a big girls, which are usually fatter than their moms, which is quite interesting, and carrying their weight the way a lot of their grandmothers are carrying it who are going through menopause.
And that's, in my view, because of carbohydrate-induced hyperphagia. You eat more when you eat carbohydrates. And the evidence is in the literature that carbohydrates make you hungry.
We could see the usual management of obesity as more of a symptomatic management. And if you're managing only the symptoms, as medication often does in most diseases, then how can you expect a long-term resolution of the problem, because you're not addressing the cause?
The conventional medical model is looking in the disease for the cause of disease, and I'm suggesting that maybe the cause of disease is at the level of energy information.
So in the pediatric population, the success rates are very, very well described. 50% of children who go on the diet have a greater than or equal to 50% reduction in seizures. The quickest response we had at Sydney Kids was in 1 day, going from seizures to no seizures at all.
Jamie Smith is our lead researcher on our biggest RCT that we're very proud of being able to fund or co-fund with the NRF. And it came very much from a dream to better fund proper research into human health and diet and nutrition, but particularly within the LCHF category.
What was interesting is that 7 of the participants that when they started LCHF, they were diabetic. And then at the time that we tested them, they did not test positive for diabetes, and they'd stopped all their medication.
So carb-based diets make us metabolically inflexible. But if you're able to burn fat in preference to carbohydrates, you can become much more metabolically flexible and flick between energy sources.
So if there's no evidence that this model is correct, what is the role of cholesterol-lowering statin drugs in the management of prevention of coronary artery disease? If cholesterol is not causing heart disease, why are we taking statins, and what's the evidence? So patients who survive through middle age seem no longer to be at substantially increased risk of coronary heart disease. So it completely disproves the hypothesis that cholesterol is damaging the arteries.
So I talk to people about when they are connected to their body and they're mindful. I say to them, how does it feel to be in the 1% of people that are truly blessed to understand what food is doing to your body?
Never, ever underestimate the power of one. It took Prof, one man, to stand up and start this revolution. Each one of us has the ability to speak and live our truth.
Right now in Turkey, we are touching people's life. We are reversing type 2 diabetes, metabolic syndrome, insulin resistance. So it's also an honor to be here.
Wow, I've learned a lot. I'm a dietitian doing the ketogenic diet in Pretoria. It was amazing experience, and I would recommend it to anybody.
But this was major to have proper Banting food at a conference.
As a dietitian, I've found it so helpful to be around people who have the same plan in mind to help those, especially with diabetes.
I'm hoping that this will encourage
other practitioners just to start having more of an open mind.
It's been the best conference that I've been at of this type, and I can't wait till the next one.